BK looked upon the arena as the cannon was just fired for the best damn mermaid ever to be in the curtain. He was so sad to see Jacob go the way he did, but he knew this was no time to mourn. They were so close to the arena event. Some loose ends would hopefully be tied up then, if not beforehand. His gaze wasn't at a camera at this particular moment. BK was just enjoying the view. He wasn't the one fighting for his life in the arena, but he was exhausted. Controlling these games took a lot more out of him than he thought it would. There were a lot of variables, sure, and a lot more unexpected ones at that. But up to this point, he had managed to keep everything in check. He was still worried about a couple talkative and persuasive mouths saying things he didn't want them to say, but that's why he was here and they were down there. If someone said something they shouldn't have or was headed somewhere they shouldn't be headed, he could manipulate the arena to take care of the problem. BK went back to the cameras to see if anything interesting was happening. Nothing had happened since Jacob died at the crack of dawn, and the sun had set on day 3. So there was a good chunk of time between anything interesting. He saw Tegan sleeping, boring. He noticed sponsors had given clean water to Colin and food to Lucy and Connor. He looked around on the camera, looking for something. Something I could help you find, sir? Yeah, actually. I see Lucy and Connor together at their camp. Where's Jess? BK knew that the group had teamed up that previous night, and unlike some of the other alliances up to this point, he didn't think it would be broken so easily so soon. Found her, camera 12. BK flipped the switch to camera 12, and he saw Jess slowly strolling through the woods. She was holding hands with Alec under the moonlight. They clearly weren't going to kill each other, so BK's best guess was they found a time, or maybe they just ran into each other, to see each other, probably for the last time. This was one of the reasons he hated that he had to put on the games. He loved Jess and Scruffy together. He loved making fun of them even more. But after this, he knew that couple would no longer exist. He felt guilty. Neither of them had died, and yet he still felt awful. He always joked about the couple breaking up, but he never wanted to be the reason that they broke up. He could try to convince himself that he wasn't the reason they'll no longer be together. The games were. But the more he thought about it, the more he thought about if it weren't for him, the games wouldn't exist. BK couldn't help but tell himself it was all his fault. He felt bad, but he knew these games were for a reason. To get what BK wanted, he knew he was going to have to make some sacrifices. Turn on the audio. Let's listen in, BK said. I don't suppose there's a way out of this, Jess asked, holding back tears. Nothing concrete thus far. I haven't found anyone who's given it some thought. I haven't really found anyone to talk to that hasn't tried to kill me, to be honest, Alex said. I would bring you back to our camp, but my guess is Lucy and Connor would feel threatened enough that they'd try to kill you. Connor feels threatened by me? You mean the same Connor who's already killed the third of the people who've died? I feel like he's the one everyone should be threatened by. Jess sighed. I think he's keeping the quote unquote weak ones alive longer and killing the stronger ones first because he feels we're easier to kill late in the game. Well, why are you giving him the chance? If he's just keeping you around just as another body, why don't you end the alliance? Oh, right, so he can kill me sooner? No, that's not what I meant. I'm saying just take him out of the picture entirely. Don't let him have the opportunity to control the game. Kill him before he gets a chance to kill you. Alec had made some good points, but Jess didn't listen to them. She felt as if Connor, not Alec, was her best chance to stay alive as long as possible. Besides, Alec can handle it by himself. Sure, he has almost been killed twice, but he's still alive now. Jess also knows Alec well enough that at this moment, his intent is not to kill. Not yet, anyway. He's going to find another way out of this before he would resort to murder. Maybe that's why he's almost been killed so much. Jess was still fighting back tears. I just want to go home. I want this all to be over. Give me the pandemic back. I don't care. At least during the pandemic, I felt as if I was in control of my life. Alec didn't respond. He didn't know what to say that would have any merit in this situation. He knew he could say the usual bullshit of it's fine, we're going to get out of this, even though he knew that was a blatant lie. A lot would need to happen in the next few days for them to get out of this. And that's if they both survive that long. Alec brought Jess in close for a hug. He felt like he needed it just as much as she did. He needed it because he didn't know what his next move should be. The two of them lay down in the grass. Nothing was heard besides birds chirping and the sound of them breathing. Then Alec broke the silence. I know we probably won't get out of this alive, but we could get out of this together. Just slapped him across the face. BK had to hold in a laugh in the booth. Are you fucking insane? I guess so, based on how hard you slapped me. Jeez. If I die, you better get out of here for me, or you die trying. You will not give up. You will not sacrifice yourself. If I die, you make sure these games don't happen again. Just as I will do if you die. Promise? Just pleaded, holding out her pinky. Alec quickly stuck out his pinky to complete the pinky promise. Then the two of them laid back down and stared into the sky. If this was the last time they were going to see each other, they were going to savor every second they could. BK just stared at the screen. He knew every set of eyes in the room were on him. He didn't care about that right now. Everyone else in the room just stared at BK. No one dared to say anything, as one wrong word might end up in BK executing them then and there. Ricardo stood there inside. It was his job to be the one that speaks up in these types of situations. He took one last swig of his drink. Sir, is there something you'd like to discuss? Maybe in private? BK didn't say a word. He turned around and walked away from the screens. He stopped himself and took a deep breath. Yes, but not now. I need to calm down. I'm going to get some rest. We'll discuss this tomorrow. Fire was imperative at this point in the game. The nights seemingly got longer and the weather definitely got colder. The arena could be manipulated in many ways, but the time it took to go from tropical forest to a frozen wasteland was too quick to comprehend. Now, sure, the environment still looks the same with all the trees and lakes and stuff, but it just got colder. Trees were still green and well grown, but had icicles hanging from the leaves and branches. Any body of water, whether be it a lake or a creek or even a puddle, seemed to freeze over. Maybe that's how Jacob died so easily. The rain was so cold for so long he didn't stand a chance. The fire that Mackenzie had built was quite impressive due to all those factors. It was big enough to keep her warm, but not too big to be spotted. She hadn't had much interaction with anybody else since the start of the games. She grabbed a trident and ran far away. It felt good knowing she had a weapon if she so chose, but she hadn't needed it up to this point. Mackenzie looked at the meat she had hunted and cooked over the large fire to check if it was done. She had a moment of inspection, put it on a clean leaf as a plate, and handed it to LB. She went back to grab another plate for Debbie. So, like I've said, my time here has been pretty uneventful, in a good way, though. How about yourselves? Yeah, you're lucky, Mackenzie, LB scoffed. You have no idea what I've been through. Please enlighten me. For some reason, I decided to let Ian Cohen, of all people, into my shelter. He was completely defenseless, and he said he owed me, so I thought maybe I could keep him around, if nothing more than a meat shield. Yes, of course, Mackenzie said, listening intently. I went back out in the rain to refill our water, come back to see Jacob and Giggs helping Ian ambush me. What? Debbie yelled. That's insane, Mackenzie gasped. I know, right? I had to shoo them all away. That's probably what led to Jacob's death, LB sighed. Yes, but you know how you could have avoided that problem in the first place. Not let him in. Not let him in. Not let him in, exactly. You know you can't trust that kid. But who can I trust? These games change people. Heather's a killing machine, of all people. Mackenzie laughed. Yes, but understand you couldn't trust Ian before we entered the arena. So you absolutely shouldn't trust him here. LB nodded. Mackenzie made some really good points. It was clear she had the advantage in the games right now. With no human interaction, she'd been able to rest her body and her mind. That'll come into play when the numbers get smaller. And how about you, Debbie? How's the meat, by the way? Oh, it's good. Thank you very much, Kenzie. Debbie took another bite before continuing. It's been real good, real good. I helped Julianne put her shoulder back in her socket, and we teamed up with Connor, Lucy, and Jess. Mackenzie's eyes got bigger for a brief second before she wrote that information down on her leaf plate. That information was crucial, and she felt like that was also information she wasn't supposed to know. In this game, knowledge was just as powerful, if not more so, than the willingness to kill. Wow, so you two have had more adventures than I thought. Mackenzie said. Yeah, it's been crazy, Debbie said. So what the hell do we do now? What do you mean? Mackenzie was genuinely confused by LB's question. I mean, why aren't we all killing each other right here, right now? Why are we forming alliances? Why are we teaming up with people we don't really like instead of the people we really like? What am I not getting here? Wait, you're actually playing the game? Mackenzie questioned. Yes, I almost killed Ian. Don't play the games. There's some underlying issue here that I'm looking into, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. Is that why you ran right away? LB asked. Obviously, there's no way that all of a sudden we're fighting 23 people for our lives. It can't be that simple. The quick weather changes, the very convenient deaths. This is all too close to Pan Am. Wait, Debbie paused. Convenient deaths? Yes, Mackenzie exclaimed, pulling out binoculars from her stash. I've seen things I never thought I'd see. I've seen the Heather deaths, which, by the way, were mostly the fault of Frank and Kristen. I've seen what Connor has done. I've seen Alec almost die 3 separate times. Everything is just too convenient. That makes sense, LB pondered. But wait, Debbie interrupted. Kristen had never had a cannon shot. Mackenzie and LB looked at each other, realizing their mistake. All of a sudden, the three of them heard a loud cracking noise from down the hill. Mackenzie grabbed her trident. LB, realizing he forgot his machete, back at camp, gathered rocks, and Debbie didn't grab anything. She was just along for the ride. They ran down to the epicenter of the loud noise to see someone had walked across the frozen lake thinking it was safer than it actually was. Well, there's another one dead. Did you bring your binoculars? Can you see who it is? LB asked. Mackenzie grabbed for the binoculars. Let me take a look. She zoomed in and focused the binoculars for a few seconds before she saw the frozen body that was floating on top of the ice-cold water. She couldn't see the face, but in hindsight, she was glad she couldn't. That was something she didn't need to see. She also didn't need to see the face to know who was dead. The floating body was. She also didn't need to see the face to know who the dead floating body was. Do you know who it is? Well, I guess we don't need to worry about her whereabouts anymore, Mackenzie said, handing LB the binoculars. He and Debbie each had their own look in the binoculars before they headed back up the hill. As they walked back to the nice warm fire they were missing, Mackenzie looked back at Kristen's body floating on the open water. This game had been extremely suspicious. She knew there was something fishy going on, and she knew BK was spearheading the entire thing. She didn't know if she was getting out of here alive, but she did know that she was going to get to the bottom of this.